Hi and welcome back to the next video. This is video number 13 and here we are doing some minor refactoring. So basically we refactor our connected users from a one-to-one relationship to user to a many-to-one relationship so that we allow multiple connections from the same user. For example, if he has open two tabs or if he's connected on mobile and on desktop, whatever. So we allow multiple connections, and we also clean now the connected users table when we start up our backend. So that we don't have there like old connection data. So basically this video is just very short, just to fix some stuff. And as always, we have like the same structure. So we first look at our video outcome, then we read the user story for this, and then we implement the story and close it. Let's have a quick look to the outcome of this video. So here we are now able to log in with the same user multiple times. So I can log in here the first time. And then here, for example, I'm already logged in with the same user, but for you to see, we can just make this again. So we are logging in with the same user. And now when we see it here, we can see here in our database that we have for our, maybe we have to refresh. So here we are able to see in our table. So let's have a quick look. So query tool, we can select all from connected user entity. But we have now two connections for the first user ID, and we are storing both the socket ID. And so, for example, also if I have now here my rooms, and I create like, let's say, tester 9. We add a description and we add, just for testing purposes, another user. Then since we are logged in here with Thomas and here with Thomas, it should automatically appear here also this room. You see this is working fine. So this is what we will build or refactor in this video. So this is like just a small video, so we are not doing that much. So let's have a short look at the story for this video. Here we want to refactor some NestJS stuff. So we want to refactor our connected users to a many-to-one, and we want to also clean our connections table when we start our backend application. So the story is, as a developer, we want to enable the users to have more than one connection. So we need to refactor the one-to-one relationship to a many-to-one, because one user could log in, for example, from two devices. So for example, from his mobile device and his desktop, or from two browser windows and so on. So he can have more than one connection. So also we want to remove all entries in our connected user table when we start our application, so that we don't have like old connections. So because right now when someone is disconnecting, then we are deleting this entry from the table. But for example, if we restart the app or so, then we are not deleting it, so we have to do this. So our acceptance criteria are, we want to refactor connected user relationship to user from one-to-one to many-to-one, and we want to clean our connected user table on startup. So let's start with the code. So basically this is not that much of code. So the first thing that we can do is we can go into our connected user entity, and we can just refactor this from a one-to-one to a many-to-one. And then we have here the user entity, where we can say this is like the user, and then we want to save this in our user entity connections. And we have to create these connections here. So we can say, just name it connections, which is our connected user entity. And these can be many. So we have to annotate it with one to many. And then we say connected user entity. Then we have our connection. And this is our connection.user. So now we have a relationship. So one user can have many connections. Yeah, so basically when we don't have like issue before where when we try to connect from a different browser window with the same user. So this should be working now. And now we also want to clean our table on startup of our application. So for this, we can go into our connected user service and we can just make another function where we delete everything. So we can say async delete all. And we can just say await this connected user repository. And the easiest thing here is to use the query builder. And then we just call delete for all. And we say execute. And we can reformat this here. And then nest.js, we can just Google this. Has some lifecycle events. So a Nest application, as well as every application element, so for example our gateway, has a lifecycle managed by Nest. Nest provides lifecycle hooks that give visibility into key lifecycle events and the ability to act when they occur. For example, module, injectable controller, and so on. Here you can have a look at the sequence. And here we have, for example, the events. So for example, on module init, called once the host module's dependencies have been resolved. So we could say we want to do this here. So we could hook into our chat gateway. So we can say here also implements on module init. And then we can say on module init, we want to do some stuff. And this is basically await this connected user service delete all. So every time we then rerun our app or restart Docker, for example, and so on, this gets executed. So let's close this here and let's try it out. So now we can just call docker compose up. And then when this happened, we can try to log in 2 times with the same user. And then we can also see or have a look in our database, everything's stored correctly. And if we restart reset our app here, our backend, if everything is changed or deleted from our connected user table. So we then want to have a look also in our database. So we can go to localhost port 5050. And you can see we are already here. So let's make this and log in and then have a look into our database. So we have here our simple password. And then you see we have our connected user entity. And we can make a simple select all from connected user entity. And now we still have our user ID here. I think this is because we are here already connected. So when we reload this here, for example, I think our frontend is not up so far. Or yeah. So when we have reload this here, then we see we have here like a new ID. We have our socket, we have our user ID. And for example, if I now close this so that we don't get reconnected automatically when we start up. So you see this is gone because we disconnected. And I'm now having here this user 1 time. And now I can try to log in another time with the same user. And then you see this is no problem because now when we run the query again, you see we have 2 results for our user ID 1, 35. So this is ID 35 and 34 and 35. And now, for example, if I rerun my app here, you see it. It's now restarted. Here our API. Is it restarted? Yeah, here our API then this should have run our delete all. And now when I run it again, it should not have ID 34 and 35. But you see it here now. We have restarted 2 times, so we now have new IDs because on restart it was disconnected and was deleted all. And since it's still open, it automatically tries to reconnect. So also when we just create here like a new room, let's say tester, and just add, for example, let's say Walter. And then if I create the room, it should automatically also appear here because we're here logged in with the same users, both with Thomas. Now you see we have both here directly. So this seems to work. So now we can already stop everything and check it against our user story. So we have refactored our one-to-one to a many-to-one relationship. And we have, or we are clearing our connected user table on startup with a lifecycle event from NestJS. So this seems quite nice. So we can now git add a, and we can commit with a message. So we can say video 13 refactored connected users from one-to-one to many-to-one to allow multiple connections for one user and clean connected users table on startup, and we can push it.